Отже, всім привіт! Всіх вітаю на нашому вебінарі. І сьогодні ми будемо говорити про одну з найважливіших тем при підготовці до іспиту IELTS. Ви вже дивились попередні вебінари, і я надіюсь, що вони були дуже цікаві для вас. І сьогоднішній не буде виключенням. Я дуже рада бачити вас в чаті, ви дуже активні, тому беріть до уваги, що я буду все читати, будемо з вами спілкуватись, обговорювати, тому чекаю на ваші активні реакції та повідомлення. Отже, коротко про себе. Мене звати Едіта, і я старша викладачка мережі шкіл Green Country. Також я є авторкою навчальних матеріалів в компанії Green Country, і я маю досвід викладання англійської в понад 4 роки з різними віковими групами та рівнями. Тому рада з вами всіма познайомитися. Отже, я перейду на англійську мову, тому що наш сьогоднішній вебінар буде англійською, і я буду намагатися говорити повільно та чітко, щоб вам було все максимально зрозуміло. Отже, let's come to our today's agenda. What are we going to talk about today? The first thing that we are going to touch upon is what is special about vocabulary in IELTS Academic. The second thing would be vocabulary topics in IELTS Academic. Then the next one would be IELTS examples of specific vocabulary that you can see in the test. The next one would be how to learn vocabulary for IELTS effectively. The fifth one would be mastery of paraphrasing for writing part. We would talk in details about that one because it's one of the most crucial parts. And the last one would be the role of the vocabulary in IELTS speaking part. So I guess we can start with the main one, yeah? What is special about vocabulary in IELTS academic exam? As you know, we have two types of two types of IELTS exam, yeah, to start with. On the previous webinars, you were actually told that we have IELTS General and also IELTS Academic. And you know that in IELTS General, we actually touch upon everyday topics that we use in our everyday life or just in communications with others, yeah? But if we talk about academic, this is something deeper. Here, we need to focus on some specific fields, specific words, terminology that we don't use in our everyday life, but we can commonly see it in some articles, maybe some term papers, or in our university works. Yeah, so it's something more formal. And I would like to ask you whether you can write at least 2 or 3 examples of academic vocabulary. Can you please write in the chat? I'll give you a few seconds to write. A few examples of special academic vocabulary. You can write maybe 1, 2, or 3, as many as you can. Okay, so actually, if we talk about special vocabulary, we need to remember that it's okay to use some simple words, yep, but it's always better to use something of high level. Yep, I'll give you just a few examples of academic vocabulary. And I would like you to try to name some simple variant. You see, I will give you something harder, yeah, and you'll give me as a simple one. Let me show you. So we have academic and formal language. Yeah, that's what is always used. If I show you the word significant, can you please think about a more simpler word for this one? Can you write in the chat, please? Okay, I see some variants. Good. Wonderful. Yes, you named the word important. Yeah, you're completely right. We can also use the word big, yeah, as not in a size, yeah, but just a big role. Good job. Let's move on. I have one more word for you. What about whereas? What can be the simple version of it? Write in the chat. This one is a bit harder, yeah, but it's kind of a connector that we use in the sentence, yeah. So, okay, there's a good point. While, yeah, or it can be but, a simple way. Good. Let's move on. If we talk about demonstrate, right, your simple version. Wonderful chat. You're completely right. The verb show. Great. What about maintain? Right, your parents? I also see right answers. Wonderful. To keep. Yeah. And let's have one more, yeah, to finish up. What about moreover? Wonderful. You're right. Also or furthermore. That's great that you know some simple versions, yeah, but an IELTS academic, the teachers, yeah, or the people who will check your knowledge, they want to see your formal language, how you can use it. Okay, let's move on to the second point. What is special about the vocabulary is using universal academic words. Maybe you have a question. What are academic words? These are words that are used in special fields, yeah? medicine, agriculture, architecture, scientific field. Yeah, so all these words, they are used in some different articles or texts that you can encounter in your reading part or in your listening part. And don't be afraid, guys. You don't need to know all of the academic words. There are thousands of them. Actually, if you write in Google, academic word list, you can see these words and they're actually gathered in one file, and they're roughly like 600 of words there. But what is good about that? You don't just have the word. Let's take the word to apply. No, you would have the word and then you would have derivatives. What are derivatives? If you have the word apply, then we can create a new word, application. So in this way, you can learn not one word, but you can learn two words, yeah, from this academic word list. So while preparing, you can open this, you can download it, and be ready to use it in your preparation. But remember, you don't need to memorize every word. I would say it's impossible. Yeah, and we don't really need it. Yes. The main for us is to recognize the words in tests. Yes, and then be ready to use them. Some of the examples of academic words, maybe you can help me to say them. Can you write in the chat what academic words come to your mind right now? You have a few seconds to write. Okay. Oh, you have great examples. Go on. Very nice. Thank you, guys. Significant, coherent, construction, comprehensible, perceived, invective. Oh, great, guys. So you see, yes, that I would just focus on a few verbs or a few nouns that you can see mostly in reading part and in listening part, and you can freely use them in your writing or speaking. Yeah, so examiners will see you are here to show us that you can use them in your speech. Okay, I guess we can move to the next point. And there we can talk about synonymy and paraphrasing. Why it's important. Let's see. Examiners, they want to assess your ability to use one word but in different contexts, yes? Or they want to see how you can express idea with different words, yeah? So if you talk about something and you use big, 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 big in every sentence, examiners would be bored. They will just say, oh, why are you here? We're at IELTS Academic, yeah? So you need to show, I know all the synonyms in the world, yeah? Let's look at the example. Increase, a great word, yeah, but we can use more synonyms to show how we know academic style. Can you write in the chat a few synonyms for the word increase? Great, I see your answers. Rise, enlarge, build up, expand. Applaud for you guys. Let's see what I've got there. I also have rise, growth, someone wrote, good, and escalation. So if you really, really want to use increase the second time, yeah, think about it and try to use the word growth in the second sentence. So the examiner will see, you know synonyms, so that's very great, and I will give you the higher point for your speaking or writing. Wonderful. And what we need to remember, yeah, in reading and listening, you would have tasks or some tasks in some specific fields, yeah? So sociology, technology, maybe education, architecture, and you don't need to know all of the terms. No, you need to focus on some basic terms, yeah? And then after knowing these basic terms, you can continue enlarging your, expanding your knowledge. And if you're interested, sincerely in the subject, of course, you can learn more. The first thing is phrasal verb, or how we use them in our speech. Actually, as English speakers in our general English, we use phrasal verbs quite often. Yep. So I've got examples of carry out. Yeah, so that's a good phrasal verb and it's often used. But if you talk about academic words, you shouldn't use phrasal verb in your speaking. Yeah, it's better for you to use the word conduct, or maybe you can write your variants. You are welcome. Maybe you remember synonyms to the word carry out, but in academic English. You can write it in the chat. I see your answers. So I see accomplish. If you have more ideas, you're welcome to share. And also, there's one more phrasal verb, to come up with. Oh, we can use it in the context of come up with an idea for something. But using academic language, it's better to use propose an idea. Or we can use other verbs and you can write them in the chat. To suggest. Wonderful. You're completely right. So what do we need to remember on this point? Carry out is great, but conduct increases your chances for your higher mark. And one more point to be mentioned, collocations. I'm sure that you use them on daily basis, but not all of you know that these are collocations. So I want to show you a few examples and then I would ask you to share some of yours. So at first I have the verb to discuss. Now guys, can you think please, what can we discuss? So write in the chat your ideas. Yes, so I can say to discuss topic. What else can we discuss? Share in the chat. Mm-hmm. To discuss data. Yeah, perfect. What else can we discuss? Discuss an idea. Why not? A topic. Wonderful. So let's see what I've got. I've got more variants for you. You're right, an idea, issue, problem, question. We can also use some adverbs to discuss briefly, yeah, to discuss at length. I see to discuss as investments or to discuss a situation. Wonderful, guys. I've got more verbs for you. Yeah. To establish. Think, what can we establish? To establish information. Great. The truth. Nice, nice ideas. A new company. Wonderful. A reputation. Great, guys. Let's see what I've got. We can add the connection or the relationships, or we can also use adverbs to establish how firmly. Okay, I see more. A project, goal. Nice. Let's go on to examine. Write your ideas, please. What can we examine? Okay, to examine a test. Wonderful. An account. Let me show you the variants that I've got. We can examine the facts or the evidence, and we can examine how critically. Examine your eyes, yeah, if we do it physically. Nice. To identify. The last one. What can we identify? Let me see your thoughts. To identify a person. Great. Or the witness. Nice. Okay, we can also mention to identify the factors or the causes, or I can see identify risks. Wonderful job, guys. So what do we need to conclude on this point? You should use set phrases as collocations to show that you have a rich vocabulary and you don't always use one phrase in your speaking or maybe in your writing. Yeah. So we need to practice collocations and use them in the context of the topic that we are talking about. The next point. What vocabulary topics are in IELTS Academic? You may think that they can be completely different from IELTS General, but it's not pretty right because we have some general topics like technology, environment, crime, some media, work, or family. Yeah, we do have them, but they would also add something specific, you know, as transportation, yeah? So you can read about the mechanics or how the cars are being built, yes? So that's how IELTS Academic works. Yeah, and enriching vocabulary in some of these spheres would help you to analyze, for example, reading text and not to be confused while reading all these unknown words. If you know a few of them, it will definitely help you to catch the main idea of the sentence or of the paragraph, and you will definitely complete your reading task or listening task for a good point. Yeah. So the main thing here in learning vocabulary topics, yes, is not to set a goal. I will learn everything from transportation. I will know every part of the car. No, we don't need that. It's a good goal, actually. But still, we need to learn a part of it, yeah? The main part. Maybe throughout your practice, you would see, okay, you'll read a few texts, so you will listen a few audios, and you already enriched your vocabulary with some words from the topic transportation. That's how it works, yeah? So the main thing here is practice, practice, and practice. And the main topics that you will see, definitely, yeah? Work and career. So even though you don't work, maybe you can talk about your dream job, yeah? Why not? Education. It's always in speaking part, so you will need to I would say expand how your education works, maybe your future goals towards that, yes. Maybe you will talk about children or children care or nature, environment, maybe how to protect environment. So you should be always ready to talk about it using academic vocabulary, yeah? That's what we remember, the main thing. So let us talk about examples, yeah? I want to show you how it works. Look at this example. It's from a reading part. Let's analyze it. We have the first column and you can see question words. In the second column, you can see words in the text. What do we see? Let's look at the right column. That's what you have read in the text. Municipal calendar. Okay, we see. But then in the questions, you would not read the same word. You would read civil calendar. In the first second, you may think, oh no, that's not the same one. So maybe that's wrong. But here, these are synonyms. So what we need to get, into our minds, they would never write the same word from the text in the question. So we always need to search synonyms, yeah, or paraphrasing. They would always do that. So here we see specific examples. Next, 12 months of 30 days. It sounds pretty hard to count, yeah? But we see how do they write it in the question. Months were in equal length. You see how it works, yeah? It looks completely different. The structure looks completely different, but sense, it's the same. Next example, split the day into two 12-hour periods. And we have divided two equal halves. So we have divide, split, halves, periods. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, we have two more. A new floor standing case design. And then we have a new cabinet shape. Again, we have only the word new that is repeated, but the other noun, it's not the same. And then we have to coordinate communal activities, and then we have to organize public events. They mean the same, but the structure is completely different. So the main thing we need to remember, vocabulary accounts for 25% of your total score, yes, for your writing, speaking tests. So that's very important to enrich your vocabulary, to be prepared for that types of tasks. Also, what I want to show you is examples from the actual IELTS test. So I would like you to work with me a bit. So let's get active. Prepare, type in the chat. What do we see? Look at the sentence, and I would like to show you this highlighted phrase. Might not be as applicable to Britain. What do you think? What can be the synonym that was used in the text? This is the question, and you need to think what was used in the text as synonym. Okay, I see answers. Good. Come on. What do you have on your mind? Share everything. So we have applicable. I can see fitting. Nice variant. Others, what do you think? So let's see what we've got. In the audio, that was used may not apply. So that's not completely different word. They just use the other part of speech. Applicable, yeah, it's used as an adjective, but they've used a verb, may not apply. Let's see the other example. Look at the highlighted word. The sharp decline. Let's write your variants. What did they use in the text? No ideas? Sharp decline. Let me show you. Falling population. So there they talk about the sharp decline in elm. It's type of tree. So they wrote falling. So we have decline, falling. Completely different words. They don't have the same root, but from the context, we need to understand, okay. So if they mention falling, the decline would be the right fit. Let's look at more examples. Here we have the reading part. Have a look at it. And I wanted to highlight the words. Look, we just look at the examples. So in the text, they use stable. Yeah. And then we have resilient. Synonyms, of course. So as you see, they would never write stable in your question, yeah? But they would use a synonym, and that is, I would say it's a more high level, yeah? So resilient, it would be like C1 level, stable, maybe B2 level. Yep. Okay, one more example there. Let's pay attention to that. Okay. So here we have also the reading part, and then we can see a health expert, and in the listening, they used a professional dietitian. They're completely different, yeah, but through the context, they talk about food, nutrition. So this professional dietitian would be a health expert. It wouldn't be a member of a student union and not a medical student. That's how it works. Yeah, someone writes reading is tough. It can be tough, yeah, but still it can be super interesting. Okay. Also, listening part. That is something that actually plays a crucial role in the preparation. Yeah. So we can see there the task. And here you need to look at the question. Where does the agent suggest packing the following items? Yeah. And we see the items: clothes, coffee maker, family, photos, computers. And we can see three categories. Yeah. Readily accessible, personal objects, and precious items. And now, guys, what do you think? What word did they use as a synonym to the word readily? Write your ideas in the chat. Okay, let's see. So they wrote, yeah, or they just had in the audio, easily accessible. So, okay, someone wrote easily. Yeah, good. So not readily, but easily. And you need to understand, they have the same connection there. Next, objects. Can you write the synonym for the objects that they used in the audio? Yes, you're right. Objects, things. Yeah, we can also use tough if it's uncountable. Next, precious. Your ideas? What can be the synonym? Valuable, beloved, important. Great variants. Let's see what we've got. High value. So they said high value items instead of precious. So while listening, you wouldn't even hear the words readily, objects, and precious, but you will need to match clothes with something from this category. You see, yeah, guys, how it's important to notice synonymic words. One more thing. It's something that I found worth mentioning. We have, again, the audio file. Yeah, there was a dialogue, and we have a statement. At first, the female student thinks that Martin's tutorial topic is. Here we have variants: boring, unsuitable, fascinating. The correct variant would be boring, but they wouldn't say this word in the audio. They use the word fascinating, but what is important to remember, guys? When I was listening, the girl just said, "Oh, I don't think this topic would be fascinating for me, but let me listen about it." So how we need to understand that it was boring? That the girl just had the intonation. That's it. So she used the word fascinating, but you don't need to oh, I hear fascinating, so it would be the right answer. No, you also need to analyze the speech. So she sounded boring. That's why I used the word boring. So here vocabulary can be also useful in that way. Okay, let us move on. One more thing, spelling. What is spelling? I've actually touched upon the topic of it because there was a task of listening, yeah? And they said acoustic guitars are also very popular with songwriters, but the person wrote songwriters separately, and the answer was wrong. Why? Because we need to write it, yeah, as one word. So guys, also pay attention to the spelling and think twice if you write it separately or together. So the main point there, how to learn vocabulary for IELTS effectively, yeah? Because you know that it's important to learn it in a right way, not just like, oh, read, and then after some time we can forget the word, yeah? The first thing, use words. What does it mean, yeah? If you read the text and you found the word significant, we already discussed this word today, yeah? And you saw it, you maybe used translator, you translate it as важливий, okay, nice, and then you move on. No, we need to translate it and then we can find some sentences with this word, or we can make our own sentences, yeah? So we need to use them in our speech or in our writing tasks while preparing. We can see example, this was a significant improvement. Or you can make a sentence about you. I made a significant task today. Yeah, I've met my uncle, yeah, on the railway station. That was significant, and I've used the word in the context. Next, jot down the words. Remember, guys, at school, you had some, I would call them notebooks or dictionaries. Maybe you have them now, where you write the word, then you write transcription, and then you write the what it means, yes, in Ukrainian. So how it works. When you find a new word, at first you need to find meaning. You are high-level students, so you can find it in online dictionary, for example, Oxford Dictionary or a Cambridge Dictionary, and you don't look at the translation itself right away. Nope. Try to look at the meaning, yeah, and after try to look at the examples. So we have approach, then you can find the meaning, yeah. It's something that we can use while having a problem, yeah? And then we can see the example and your approach to the problem. And then we can find some word families. We can say not only approach, but you can use as approachable. And you can see 2 or 3 words while using it. So that's very important for you, not just to read and forget the word, but also jot them down. The next part would be revising, and I'm sure you are familiar with that. Can you write in chat, have you ever used Quizlet on your lessons or just for practicing vocabulary? Can you write in the chat, yes or no? Quizlet. You can see it on the screen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So I see users there. That's one of the great methods to revise the words. You can also use Anki cards if you heard about them. It's actually the same. You use cards to revise them. And I would also recommend you method that is called spaced repetition. So first, what means first? It's the first day you see the word and you learn it. Then you revise it in 3 days. Again, you read example and you can make your own sentence. Then on a 7th day and then on 14th day. With this technique, the word would be in your mind forever. And we don't forget about the context, yeah? We always learn in the context. We don't just look at the individual word. No, we look at the phrase from the text. For example, you can read the text and then you see discussion. So it's better for you to write down not the only word, but you can write to have a discussion or to conduct a discussion. This is what we need, phrases. And also, when you practice reading and listening, always write down the vocabulary. Don't write all of them, all of the words, but a few, yeah? 10 or 15 while completing the task would be very beneficial. And of course, use your own life to create examples. That's always 100% success, guys. And our collocations, we've mentioned them before. So you just need to memorize them, yeah, and then freely use them in your writing parts or in your speech. Here we have a few examples. Make progress, conduct research, highly unlikely. You can take a verb make and you can think of more nouns, yeah. Make a progress, make a startup, make a task. Anything that comes to your mind. So we can mention also writing part, yeah? What is important there? Here we would talk about paraphrasing. I'm sure you heard about it at school too. So what is paraphrasing? It's when you are able to use your idea, but using different synonyms or phrases. So you are able to express it in variable ways. So if you see the introduction in writing, you know we have 2 tasks of writing. You never use the same words from the introduction. You learn how to rewrite them using synonyms. And then examiners would see, okay, you have skills of paraphrasing and you are able to use them. Then we avoid repetition in the text. So we cannot use the same word 3 or 4 times. Nope. It's necessary to come up with 3 or 4 more examples for the word. If you cannot come up with them, forget about this word and try to use the one that you know examples for, okay? And also you need to demonstrate rich vocabulary. You demonstrate how hard you worked and how many words you've practiced while preparing. And what can we mention next would be basic methods of paraphrasing, yeah? So we can see the first one, yeah, synonyms. We already discussed important, yeah? So you mentioned significant, crucial. Can you give more synonyms for important? You can write in the chat. We've mentioned important and significant. Maybe more? Yeah, you can write. Valuable, perfect. Crucial, yep. Meaningful, essential. Wonderful, guys. And also vital, yeah? And increase, we had rise. What other words can you write for increase? not the words that were mentioned before. Okay, good. Growth. Escalation. I would say is the word of our today's webinar. Yeah. Rise. Wonderful, guys. Then the second method would be replacement. Let's look at the example. The number of students increased rapidly. Okay, a good one, but we can see there was a rapid increase in the number of students. So what changed? Here we have increased rapidly, verb plus adverb, and then we have a rapid increase. So it's adjective plus noun. Make sure you can use these grammatical structures so examiners would see, yes, you're sure of using it and you can easily manage them in your writing part. Then we have the third method would be generalization or concretization. And we have a few examples. You can write cars, that's okay, but you can also generalize it like vehicles or means of transportation. And here we have young people. We can also write younger generation or the other words that can be used. Yeah, adolescents. The fourth one would be rearranging part of the sentence. Yeah, just simply changing their position. In 2010, sales rose significantly in Europe, and then we can write sales in Europe rose significantly in 2010. Simply rearranging would change the meaning and the sentence. Yeah, actually for you, and the structure would be even, I would say, clear for the examiner to check and for you to use it. So now we are going to mention a speaking test, yeah, shortly, and we'll talk about the role of the vocabulary in the speaking test itself. You can be confused a bit, yeah, because speaking, that's totally about vocabulary and how we use them. And that's why we need to mention the main points there, yeah, the types of the vocabulary that help in speaking part. Guys, I want to show you, like, to tell you the part, and you would also help me in the chat, yeah? How can we use it? If I show you good, yeah, great, fantastic, beneficial, valuable, what do you think? What is the type of the vocabulary we can use if we talk about this type? If we have good, but we can use great, fantastic, it's about what? We've talked about them today, yeah? What type of words? Yes, synonyms. Good job. Okay, also we can talk about these verbs. Come up with, look forward to, and we call them phrasal verbs, yeah? And it's better for us to replace them with academic words if needed, but of course you can easily use them in your speech. The next one is the type of phrase, yeah, once in a blue moon. I'm sure you've heard about them. And what type of phrases are these? A piece of cake or easy peasy lemon squeezy? How do we call them in English? Write your ideas. You can also use as busy as be. Wow, yes, idioms, you're right. Make sure that you don't use a lot of idioms because it's not really acceptable, but if you want to use at least one or two, that's amazing. The next point would be using some functional vocabulary. In speaking, So examiners, they want to know your opinion towards the topic. And of course, make sure to use the phrases like, to be honest, what I mean is, in my opinion. That is high value during the speaking part. And then we have some specific vocabulary. Guys, what do you think? What topic is this vocabulary from? Metabolism, fracture, chickenpox. Can you write the topic in the chat, please? It's like the topic, like environment or agriculture. Okay, your ideas. So this is actually medicine, yeah, the topic from medicine. And you're right, yeah, some of you wrote. Yeah, great. So these are main points there. And I would like to show you example. So guys, imagine that examiner asks you, do you enjoy reading? A wonderful question. And you think it's easy to answer, yeah? So guys, can you think please and write in the chat which answer is better? Number 1 or number 2? Read them and then write. Okay, see your answers. Yes, you're right. It's number 2. And it's not because it's longer, yeah? Here, at first you answer definitely. Yes, so you answer the question. Then second, you use the phrase, I'm particularly fond of something. Then you use details. You don't just say, I like reading books. You write novels and what types of novels you like. And then you write the reason why you like them. Yeah. So that looks amazing. And also the academic vocabulary is used in such type of answer. So what do we need to see? That vocabulary in the speaking part is not just about the number of the words. It's about the content and the grammar structures or phrases that you use in this context. The more flexible you are, the more diverse your answers are, the higher score you would get in your lexical test that you are taking. So some tips to sum it up. Guys, it's better to know less, but use it actively than knowing hundreds of words but passively, so you're not able to use them in the context. Yeah, that's what we focus on, quality over quantity. Next, avoid mechanical use of some difficult words. Don't sound artificial. Yeah, you need to sound natural, even though you can use not like difficult words, yeah, all the time. You can just put them in a sentence, yes, somewhere, not always, not all the time. And don't be afraid of these simple words. They're also great words, but yeah, it's more important for you to vary your expressions to avoid monotony and not to sound, I wouldn't say boring, but maybe for some examiners it can be like that. And I'll move to Ukrainian now, because ми можемо допомогти вам підготуватись до IELTS в комфортній атмосфері, з професіоналами, а також з підтримкою. Отже, в нашій школі Green Country стартує курс до підготовки до IELTS, і ви будете готуватись з досвідченими викладачами. Також ви можете готуватись в групах або індивідуально. І також, що є необхідним, буде персоналізований підхід до кожного студента. Тому у вас буде можливість все обговорити і дізнатись багато лайфхаків щодо підготовки. І тим, хто був присутній на цьому вебінарі, вам гарантується знижка 10% на курс при реєстрації протягом доби. І для детальної інформації ви можете сканувати QR-код і можете дізнатися деталі і запитати всі необхідні питання. А наразі я дякую вам за увагу і я готова до ваших питань, і можете їх писати в чаті. Я з радістю відповім. Якщо є питання, не соромтесь, питайте. Всі просканували код і всі вже ознайомлюються там, так я розумію? Є питання, що ми вивчаємо на цьому курсі. Ми будемо фокусуватися на всіх 4 етапах по підготовці до іспиту IELTS. Тобто це буде speaking, reading, listening and writing. Ми будемо детально розбирати кожну частину, а також вивчати, як правильно та практично готуватись до нього. І будемо опрацьовувати всі навички по підготовці. Теми будуть максимально різні, ті, які ви зустрінете на самому іспиті. Тому будемо готуватись до всього. Якщо є питання, не соромтеся, давайте. Зрозуміло. Тому, якщо ви просканували код, то у вас вже буде вся детальна інформація в телефоні. Дуже всім дякую за увагу. Я сподіваюся, що вам було цікаво, і ми чекаємо на вас на нашому курсі, а також на наших наступних вебінарах. Всім бажаю гарного дня та ефективного навчання. Дякую за увагу!